As we round the corner to the end of 2024 and look forward into next year, I wanted to end things on a positive note. And from an industry standpoint, the positive news is coming from logistics and trucking. If you don't believe me, I have the numbers, the facts, and the figures to back it up. According to my friends at the American Trucking Association, they report the freight and logistics industry is growing within the transportation sector in the United States as it relates to the GDP. It's estimated that it accounted for a total of $738.5 billion in the fourth quarter of 2023. Meanwhile, preliminary numbers of the National Trucking Freight Bill in America surpassed $987 billion in gross freight revenue and shippings only in 2023. Trucks were also responsible for transporting 84.5% of the value of surface trade between the U.S. and Mexico last year. There was also a benefit from an employment perspective as well, and I'm happy to dive deeper into those very numbers. 8.5 million people were employed in the economy through jobs relating to trucking activity in 2023, excluding the self-employed. There was also a total of 3.55 million truck drivers employed in 2023, which is an upgrade of 0.3% compared to the previous year. And finally, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics reports they expect that the employment of logisticians will grow a total of 19% between 2023 and 2033, which is much faster than any other occupations throughout the next decade. My friends, this is all good news for my good buddy, Haittam Greib. He's the CEO of Prestige Worldwide Logistics. It was named one of Inc. National's and Regional's fastest growing companies. Haittam's got a unique story in entrepreneurship, starting his first business at the age of 21 and finding his current venture by the time he was 25. He joined me this week to have a conversation about business success in logistics, his own personal journey to prominence, and so much more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. If you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn about your experience in business, my friend. Great to see you, and happy Friday to you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, Haittam, I know you're an entrepreneurial leader and a logistics expert, and you launched your first company at the age of 21, my friend, which focused on the print and online marketing side of things, and then you moved into logistics, my friend. So tell me about your journey and how you got to where you are today and what makes you so fabulous, my friend.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of see an opportunity and you have to jump on it, right? That's kind of the first step. You got to take that leap into entrepreneurship. So since I was a young age, I'm a first generation immigrant. So your parents bring you to this country and they paint this vision of the American dream. And so I was blessed to have such a good foundation to work off. When I was 21, I graduated college. I got my degree in biology, and if you're not a doctor, attorney, or engineer, you're no good in the eyes of the first generation family. So I realized after college that I didn't want to become a doctor. I was capable. I just wasn't willing anymore, and I didn't want to go back to school. I wanted to start the entrepreneurial journey. So I had to build a brag book to become a pharmaceutical sales rep. So I took on a couple jobs, corporate America. One was at Yellow Book USA, and the thick phone book that nobody uses anymore.
I do, yeah.
I was in that period of time where the online marketing was coming out, and it wasn't quite evolved yet. And I would just go door to door trying to get people to purchase advertisement in this Yellow Book, and I noticed that most of them were very outdated with their print, their online presence, all of that. So I saw an opportunity, and I would go in as Yellow Book, offer them the Yellow Page advertising, but then I was like, you know what? Let's add another service, another product. And after pretty much every client that I offered it to purchased, I was like, I think this is a good step from Yellow Page sales to offering something different. And that was the rise of Metro Creations. We would all essentially offer like a starter package for small businesses, your flyers, your business cards, your 5-page website. This was pretty much when websites were still just getting built. And that's kind of how that venture started. I realized very quickly after that the trend of how everything was moving was a lot faster than I was skilled at. So that didn't turn out to be the most successful business, although I had a lot of clients that were interested in what we had to offer. I didn't have the team to support the vision. And, kind of just my dad got cancer twice. So it was a very tough time trying to figure out what does a college kid do after you got a biology degree, you don't know what to do with it. Took on another job at a company, learned logistics, and been doing that since 2011.
Yeah, Adam, I also wanted to ask you about your definition of the American dream because I know you started your logistics company in 2011 despite facing challenges, my friend. So I wanted to ask you about your definition of the American dream and how you view entrepreneurial sort of persistence, my friend.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It is definitely persistence. Honestly, it really comes down to a passion too, right? You have to want to do something and you have to be willing to put in everything you have to make it work. A lot of people see the next shiny object and they want to jump ship, right? That's one of the biggest attributes to our success was sticking through the goods, the bads, acknowledging that the harder it gets, the more you have to evolve and grow. And honestly, that's one of the key things to it becoming successful over time. But to just simply start, just that's it. Just start and have the energy and the passion and the consistency to keep going forward. I mean, it's really that simple.
I,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. And I'm also wondering your thoughts on your own personal definition of the setting your own goals in business because I think a lot of entrepreneurship is about internal motivation. So I'm curious to ask you about what lights your internal fire to keep going every day.
Kind of like back to like I was saying, like with the passion, right? Like when I started the business, I didn't know what business I wanted to be in. I didn't know how to even go about it. Didn't know what LLC meant. Didn't know how to sign up for one. But I knew that one day it will come together. So that was my safety net, if you will. Like I just knew it will work out as long as I'm willing to put 110% in. I hope I'm answering your question because my mind sometimes goes in a million miles an hour. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, from the internal standpoint, it's a nonstop battle. That's one thing I learned. So in the beginning, just do it, and stick with it. Throughout the journey, just keep reminding yourself that if you're not struggling, you're not growing, and that's I found a lot of peace in that. So the more hurdles I overcome, I look at it as a positive. I'm growing in whatever, like I'm redeveloping a skill set or look changing my mindset or and God gives a lot of signs, so you got to listen to those signs, whatever it may be. um there's constant inside battles constantly, and that's in my mind sign of growth. And if you're not doing that, then you're stagnating. If you're stagnating, you're dying, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also curious to get your thoughts on these findings from Statista that reports that in this industry, my friend, one of the biggest challenges that the trucking industry is facing is the shortage of drivers. You know, Statista says that in the United States, there's an estimated 80,500 drivers needed as of 2021. And by 2023, they also report that the figure is forecasted to be about 162,000 by the end of 2030, my friend. So, what do you think about these findings, and how do we address the driver shortage in the industry, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. I mean, the driver shortage has always been an issue since I've been in the industry since 2009, 10. Again, I've been on my own since 2011. So it is definitely a big concern. I think the biggest reason why there's a driver shortage is because they're just underappreciated. With the rise of the brokers in the market, tapping into, the profits that once would go to the drivers. But then there's also like technology, right? Having more visibility so just being underappreciated, the regulations and the rise of technology is kind of causing all of that. Even with these self-driving vehicles, right? I think that's maybe why there might be a bigger driver shortage. I'm not exactly sure why the number would jump in the next 10 years. It's kind of been around that 80,000 mark, ironically. I mean, when you talk to a truck driver, they're on the road all day. They have to sacrifice their family. They have to sacrifice a lot, and they only get paid by like a mile. They don't get paid by the hours they actually work. Right. So it gets to the point where it is a lucrative business. A lot of people make money driving trucks, and it's the backbone of America. However, it's like an ebb and flow type thing. When the market's hot, we need drivers. They're paying top dollar. Drivers jump in. When the market's soft, then they're not paying as much. Then the drivers fall off. So I think it's constantly a cycle. Is what I'm saying. I mean, a lot of people think that the autonomous vehicles is going to kind of reverse that, but I mean, you still do need a body in that vehicle to operate. Just they're not operating 24/7, right? Um, but I think the biggest problem to why there's driver shortages is the underappreciation for the job and the underpaid factor of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side of the spectrum, my friends over at the American trucking associations say that the employment of these workers is so, there's work out there. If you look hard enough to find it, my friend, and more and more people are realizing that this is a lucrative business. So, what do you think is the key to continuing that positive marketing trend to get people, invested and interested in this industry? What are your thoughts there?
Kind of comes down to passion. I don't want to sound redundant, but it does have a lot to do that. I'll give you a perfect example. So nobody wakes up and is like, I want to be a truck driver, right? Generally, it comes from, you worked in the military as a truck driver, your family's in truck driving, or, you have a network of friends that found like the profitable niche in that market and, they jumped on board. Um, the other side of that is the job kind of can be quite enjoyable. From a lot of the drivers that we've talked to, they love to tour the country and see just everything they see. If they're going from New York to California, it's two different worlds, and you're seeing everything along the way. So a lot of people actually just love that solitude and love enjoying like the journey along the way. Um, there's so many types of trucks and trucking that to group them all into one category is kind of difficult. I will say it's like, you talk to a financial banker, how do you manage your money? Well, there's so many ways to do it. There's the insurance side of things, the crypto side of things, the financial planning of everything. But like looking at money, it's kind of like trucks. It's what do you do with it, right? So to keep it positive, I mean, my advice to anybody would be find something that you believe in, right? So if, for example, you are big into like automotive, right? You would love to see all the new cars that are coming out. That right there motivates a lot of drivers, right? I like to haul cars, get I see all the models. If you're doing just some general practice items, maybe it's not as exciting, but I think it's the biggest thing is the journey from starting in the truck. It's exciting all the way to all the things you see along the way. That's kind of what I've been hearing from a lot of truck drivers as to what keeps them in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Hatem, I know that congratulations is in order, my friend, because, in nationals and regional mark your business is one of the region's fastest growing businesses, my friend. So
Thank you.
I'm wondering, you're welcome. I'm wondering what the honor means to you and how you hope to continue the momentum, my friend.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, couldn't do it without my team, right? Although I started it literally from just cold calling and setting a level of excellence to the clients and hiring the right people to continue that. Everybody on my team is an extension of me. Um, I think every founder, a founder and a CEO are different, right? A lot of people have the CEO title when they act like a founder or vice versa. I have built this company literally from the ground up without any support from and finances. I mean, a lot of people even say you're going to go out of business. Like you're crazy. You don't. What makes you think you could compete with some of the biggest players in the space, right? Um, so to answer your question, I've grown it to the point of my, I don't want to say ability, but as much as I'm willing to be able to put into it, right? And now I'm on this journey looking for a successor. And I think that would be the way to continue our growth is to kind of just get some fresh legs with a fresh mentality. Because once you do something for over a decade and you're constantly getting beat up between the regulations, between, the fight, the hustle and bustle it is to get the shipment, to deliver the shipment, to get paid by the shipment, to troubleshoot the things, to deal with a variety of clients. And it's a very underappreciative job, right? Like, oh, you picked up and you delivered on time. Okay, great. Oh, but if something is late 5 minutes, everything blows up, right? So, as an entrepreneur, I got it to the point where I built a team, I built a structure, I built, a brand, and I'm very excited to see how my team and the successor we choose will be able to take it to the next level. Personally, I think I'm looking for something a little bit more innovative. So I might be transitioning into like a software of logistics or autonomy, the automation of things, like to try to integrate the trucks with the warehouses. I'm not quite sure which direction to go, but to answer your question of like, how am I going to get to the next level? Find the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up that professional balance, my friend, and I know that achieving professional and personal balance is important to you to avoid burnout within the industry and just balance overall. So tell me why that's one of your core values and why you think it's essential to achieve balance, my friend.
Yeah, just to make sure, could you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure I answer this one correctly. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I was just asking you about achieving professional balance, my friend, because I know it's one of your core principles about separating your work and family life, my friend. So, how
Yeah,
do you think we can achieve better professional balance?
it's a great question. You're doing. I could see why you're very good at what you do. So before I jump into that, in the past 5 years, besides our company growing quickly, I think we ranked at like number 266 this year as the fastest growing company out of the 5,000. That was quite a bit to endure. But then I recently, well, not recently, within the past 3 years, got married. And then we have two kids under two. And then we just purchased a new house for the family this year. So it's been a struggle to balance it all. It's not an easy task, that's for sure, because you're getting pulled in two different directions, and you got to make sure you give enough, but then keep yourself centered, right? Because if you get ripped apart, then what good could you do? What's worked for me is honestly fitness, and uh, fitness and mindset. Those are the two things that's really helped me balance everything. So as much as I used to go to the gym, and as much as I loved to read journals and listen to podcasts and things of that nature, that was time spent. Um, so for me right now, focusing on not only like your meal prepping, but focusing on like your macros, focusing on like your goals, putting your achievement roadmap right in front of you so you see it all day, every day. So you remind yourself why you're working so hard. But the way to balance it all was really to tame the mind, because the mind just goes in a million different directions. So, I exhausted the body to tame the mind. And as a result of that, I was able to free up space to offer to the family, to myself, and to the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know one of the ways you strike that balance, my friend, is you're a golf enthusiast. So tell me, hey, how's your golf game these days? My friend, how would you evaluate that?
Well, it always could be better, right? I haven't had as much time to golf as I once did. It actually started off just as a fun drinking game, to be transparent, right? Like your friends are like, let's go out. So I went out, and then, all it takes is that one amazing swing and that one amazing shot. And then you're like, oh, I'm addicted. And that's kind of what got me into the golf. So over the past, 5, 10 years, I have played golf quite a bit. Over the past few years, I've taken it more seriously, where you focus more on, your form and, strategy and things of that nature. I'm by no means professional, but I do well. And we do host a golf outing, so that helps as well to kind of keep that community alive. And then we have a lot of great friends that are golfers, so you're always getting new tips and stuff. Just got to be careful not to watch too many, you know, Facebook or Instagram reels, because then you're gonna change up your whole golf game.
Absolutely. Well, there's always room to constantly be ascending, my friend. I always say that life is a constant game of learning, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Absolutely. Hey, I know that one of your company's strengths is your willingness to embrace both innovation, which includes electric vehicles, as you mentioned earlier, and artificial intelligence. So tell me not only in your business, but how do you think both artificial intelligence and the advent of electric vehicles are going to change business as a whole, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean that's a big topic. AI, it's already kind of changing things, right? It gives people like a little bit more power to do their job more efficiently. That's kind of one of the best ways in my mind to describe it. To give you an example, a lot of automation was available prior to AI. I mean, it's baby forms of AI, but now you could take one rep to do the job of four reps. So that's not to say that we won't hire other people, but that just allows one person to be as productive as possible from a sales side, from an operations standpoint, finance, whatever the case may be. Even from like a strategy standpoint, sometimes you just have these ideas, you could just plug it into like a chat GBT or something and then hear it from a different perspective, read it from a different perspective, and you're like, oh, so I don't think that AI is going to completely replace jobs because people are still needed there to input into the AI, right? But I do think that it will supercharge the human mind to be able to be as productive as one person can be. From the autonomy standpoint, they kind of go hand in hand. I think we're still working on the autonomous vehicle. So although there's autonomous semis out there, I don't think that they're ready to implement that into the whole infrastructure. I think they're primarily focused on, the longer hauls, from California to Texas, where it's like nothing but like, straight road. That's where you're going to probably see a lot of the implementation take place. And then who's going to use it, right? So a lot of the bigger players that could invest into that are probably the ones that are going to start off. The Cokes, the Pepsis, those private companies, they have the funds to invest into their autonomous fleet. But when it comes to the for hire market, the public, um, I don't think that we're there yet. There's so much uncertainty about its capability. I mean, it's definitely gonna get there. Just the question is when.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I also wanted to talk to you about creating trusting relationships with a government and corporate clients because I know that's a big part of what you do, my friend. So, what do you think is the key to creating great and trusting relationships with those two entities which I mentioned, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, great question. The government side of things is more, it's definitely different. But I mean, everybody we deal with is people, right? So it's just you got to follow their process, their protocols, and you got to play their game. Um, a lot of companies they're not adaptable. This is what we do, this is how we do, and that's it. One of our differentiators is we're adaptable. So when it came to the government side of things, we brought a different form of communication. We were very thorough and transparent and um, over the time proving that we earned their trust, right? The government's a big branch. It's a world of its own. But when you know how to play their game and then make their lives easier and deliver, that's kind of what made us stand out. I think, what was the other one? Automotive you were talking about, or
No, just corporate clients, my friend.
yeah,
What's the key to creating great relationships with corporate clients in your view?
absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to help solve a problem for them, right? You got to bring value, regardless who it is. So being able to like peel that onion back and get to the root cause of what the issue is, that's like the common denominator between everybody. So if it's from a government standpoint, it could be as simple as communication or pricing. or availability. That's another big one. When it comes to, the corporate level clients, it could be their shareholders, it could be what the CEO wants, it could be so every company, as much as you would think they operate in a similar fashion, every company operates in a different manner, especially whatever stage they're at. So kind of just understanding what their needs are, what value you could bring to them, and constantly checking up to make sure that you are continuing to offer value. That's honestly the key we found value in. Like what you start with isn't always what you end with. There's a lot of adapting along the process, and whether it's change of leadership or change of whatever the case is, trying to reinvent the wheel is sometimes more difficult than just giving them what they want and understanding what the customer wants. Over the past 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of different changes there. So I wish I could tell you one thing that's worked, but the truth is just being adaptable. Like if the person you're talking to all of a sudden switched roles and they still need your support, we're there for them, even though they might not be in the shipping department or whatever the case is.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, Hayden, I wanted to follow up with this question about what do you think it means to add value in business and be considered an innovative problem solver? What does that mean to you?
Well, first, it involves asking the right questions, right? A lot of people just want to jump into a solution without actually understanding what the problem is, right? They just assume they know the problem. So, depending on the situation, thinking outside of the box to make everybody happy is kind of the innovative mindset we adapt. It could be a tool. It could just be a simple way we communicate. It could be many, many different things. So once we fully understand what the pain point is, what would make their lives easier, what we're capable of providing, we've always met in the middle and came together with a solution. It's not always soft. Sometimes it's just coaching your team to adapt to what the needs are. Something as simple as that. So I'm trying to think of an example specifically to give you. I have one actually. So one of our automotive clients is, being, I don't want to say the word forced, but maybe that might be appropriate word. They were, they're switching into the EV market, right? So these automotive manufacturers have been dealing with the combustion engine for so long, right? So now with the rise of the EVs, they had to do a lot of retooling and redying and restructuring of their plants. From a trucking standpoint, you'd think it's no big deal. However, the truth was, like, we went from a human loading and a human unloading to a human loading and a robot unloading. So our truck drivers never dealt with a robot unloading, right? And there was a lot of issues between the robot not communicating with the truck. And so the manufacturer is like, well, your trucker's not parking correctly because the robot's not registering. And then we're like, okay, well, the truck is in its place, but the robot's not registering. So, just from that standpoint, we thought of a simple solution. I think it was like as simple as changing the tires because it was off by this much, the platform where it needs for the robot to unload. And we're like, okay, well, if the robot's not registering the truck, and keep in mind, it's been the same truck forever, and they built the robot based off the specs of the truck. But then all of a sudden, there was like one little, half-inch gap, if you will, which was causing the robot to shut down. So, we had the whole team, the drivers, the leadership team, the robot team, everybody there when this issue would happen, and it became very apparent. It was like during the cold winters, tires lose their air pressure, and that's what caused that difference. So something as simple as that, our innovation wasn't like replacing the tires or reinventing the wheels. The client went through a lot of innovation on the robot side of things, but we were there, and that was part of the value, right? Like, we put everybody together to come to a resolution.
Absolutely. And, I know that you do some work with Stellantis, my friend, and they just went through a leadership change, and I know that they're currently dealing with electric vehicle shortage, as you mentioned. So I'm curious to ask you your thoughts on their current state, but also as we go into 2025, what are some of the logistical challenges or hurdles that you're most excited to solve going into the new year?
That's a big question. I don't have the answer for everything, but I'll give it the best shot I have. So, from a Stellantis change in leadership role, it's been in the news. They were talking about it. It actually happened. Stellantis is a big company. They're actually one of the big players, one of the top three, right? Um, I think a lot of people still like their products. I still think that the company, I mean, I shouldn't speak to this. I don't know exactly, but I would assume they're profitable. Maybe not as much as they would like to be, but I don't think that they're struggling like they were back in '08 and whatnot. So I think they'll figure it out, right? If there's a change in leadership, I'm sure that they will put together the right team to figure it out. I'm not too concerned about that, especially after all the changes that everybody made to try to get into the EV side of things. I think it's just an adjustment. So, and things change like that all the time, right? So, all I could do is pray that they don't go backwards. I think they're going to go forward. I have full faith in that. From some of the logistics challenges, though, that's a great question. We all don't know. Like in the last election, a lot of people were gearing up to move to Mexico and wherever the case is, and with the new leadership, it's proposing different tariffs and things of that nature. I really wish I had a crystal ball and I could answer that question clearly. I really do. But if I were to guess, I mean, we always figure it out, whatever the case is. So I think that I think our current upcoming leader wants to keep everything here, right? That's kind of very clear. But Mexico is a huge partner for automotive. So I think they will come to an agreement that makes sense for both parties.
Yeah, and since we both live on the international border, my friend, I'm curious because I live here in Canada, and the local news here is talking about the shift in American leadership that's coming up. And I'm curious, how do you think the U.S.'s relationship with Canada will change from the work that you do based on some of the things we've been hearing in the news? And another water cooler, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Another great question. I think you have more information than I do. um, I would say it's probably very similar to like the relationship with any other country, right? Like, our upcoming leadership is a businessman, and we're here to make business work for all parties. I mean, that's the only way it really does work. It has to benefit all sides. I know that from a logistics standpoint, we do a lot more business with obviously like the Chinas of the world and the Mexicos of the world, and but I remember during the tariff war that we had with China, a lot of things did come through Canada. Um, so that's a great question. I wish I could answer more to that. I would be putting my foot in my mouth. I don't know.
Well, that's the good thing about life. We live, we experience, and then we adjust, right?
Correct.
Absolutely. And I'm also curious to ask you about creating an inclusive culture. I talk to businesses all the time about the importance of hiring individuals with disabilities because I was born with one, and I found out at the age of 9, buddy, that I wouldn't be able to walk for the duration of my life without the assistance of a walker because of the severity of my cerebral palsy. So I've made it my life mission to talk to business people about the importance of hiring folks with disabilities. And I'm curious, what do you think is the key to changing, the attitudinal barrier to hiring more people with disabilities and giving them a shot in the corporate and business culture? What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I agree. I think it definitely. So, we. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. So you might want to edit some parts of this video, but we run on EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, if you're familiar with it. And one of the core values of EOS is to hire the right people to put them in the right seat. It doesn't matter what they're capable or incapable of doing, right? So you just got to put the right person in the right seat. So when it comes to, hiring people with disability, there's always a right seat for them. It's just a matter of figuring out where that's at. Um, Not only that, I mean, I think there's a huge opportunity to from a different perspective, right? It's a lot of people with disability have struggled, and to be great at something, you have to struggle. So I think there's a huge value add there, right? The mindset's different, the creativity is different, the authenticity. There's a lot of value from that. We're a small team, and when we are looking to grow into the hyper growth phase, I was watching a lot of your videos prior to this call, and I was very inspired, to be honest. I think it would be something we're gonna definitely incorporate in the future.
Well, I'm glad that I could spur that interest for you, my friend. And my final question for you, my friend, has to do with legacy. I'm a big believer in the power of self-reflection and what that means for moving the needle of progress forward. So, when you look at your own individual and personal legacy, how do you want that to be defined?
Great question. As a first generation son of an immigrant, it's a big thing for me. All my family's back home, so what we do here is kind of creating the legacy here. Honestly, I want to be left behind. I want to be known as a person who's helped. I want to be known as a person who, brought value into multiple facets of life, right? Whether it's aspiring someone, inspiring someone, I find huge fulfillment in helping people. I think that's kind of what we're put on this earth to do. Life is life is life, and the challenge is to figure it out, right? So working together as a team, I think that will be my legacy. If I were to pass away tomorrow, I want to be known as the person who was not only a good person, but has helped a lot, kind heart, funny. Because when you look at the family tree and it grows and it grows and it grows, one of the things that stood out to me the most is when you see the one that has 10 kids as an example versus one who didn't have any kids. And we're going based off choice to have kids, not, ability or whatever to have kids. And I'm just using kids as an example. But everybody's like, who are those two people that had 10 kids? And one of those kids did something great, not all of them. And so that always resonated with me. I was like, it doesn't matter what you do in this lifetime, it's what you leave behind. And that's kind of what I'm striving to figure out. It's an ongoing battle. I could be very generic with my words and say, hey, I want to, help people and this and that, but I'm looking way down the road. What did I do? What could I do to be known as that couple that spread the family tree like that? But not even just on a family standpoint, but in your network. If you looked at a family tree and treated it like a network, that's kind of how I look at it. So, I mean, if I knew exactly what I was put on this earth to do, I would have answered your question in one sentence. But I know what has resonated with me and what I am working towards, and that is to leave a good imprint on this in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the one thing I say about life is that it's not a forever certainty, so it creates sort of a competitive urgency, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And tell me, if people want to get connected with the work that you do in logistics or yourself personally, what's the best way they can do that, my friend?
Oh, I mean, multiple ways. You could, email me, call me, like whatever which way works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to thank you for being here today, my friend, and having an engaging conversation about the future of logistics and the trucking industry, my friend. I want to wish you the best of luck with your current and future endeavors, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Thank you. Appreciate you for having me once again.